Jim Charbonneau. He is an industrial solutions specialist and solution architect with over 30 years of experience in enterprise transportation, solution design, and delivery. Given his work in maintenance, reliability, and railway operations excellence, Jim has a unique business side perspective on enterprise information management and is a solutions architect with specialization in master data governance for enterprise asset management. Mr. Charbonneau is the Director of Enterprise Asset Management for the SAP partner, Utopia Global Inc. And I'm going to hand it over to you, Jim, and take it away.
Thank you, Jody. Very kind words. I suspect my mother may have written the introduction, but thanks. Good afternoon, everyone. As Jody mentioned, my name is Jim Charbonneau. Today we're going to have an interactive discussion around taking the guesswork out of transportation logistics information, focusing on the SAP MDG Master Data Governance for Enterprise Asset Management. Having worked in the industry for some 30 years, coming up through the business, I was always puzzled as to why I was given these large enterprise systems, and sometimes they didn't talk to me. Sometimes they didn't give me the information I was looking for. So in today's discussion, we're going to explore a little bit around the challenges and opportunities within the transportation sector to get it right. In our discussion, you'll discover, or we should discover together, that there are low-hanging fruit and easy opportunities, arm-reach opportunities within our current SAP community of practice to improve master data and the use of work orders and PMs and maintenance plans and task lists and the components of everyday work in our businesses. We all strive for perfection, but the reality is that improvement is sometimes tough to achieve. Through generations of possibly doing more with less, transitioning from cultures where we had many maintenance planners, many supervisors, the ratio of administrative and supervisors to workers has changed over the decades. So we're very much more dependent upon master data and transactions within our SAP PM products. We'll talk about master data governance. Master data governance is a people, process, and technology opportunity. And I tend to focus more on people. The consumers of SAP PM, the users in the communities, the mobile workforces and things that use these tools really have a lot of knowledge and experience to shed upon and share with us around challenges and opportunities to improve our systems. So I want to talk about the concept of participation breeds commitment. Throughout the master data governance models, it's really important to engage and involve people within your user community to listen to them and see where aspects of the data aren't working for them, whether it's linear referencing and geospatial data coming from pipelines or roads or rail networks, or parts lists and some detail in the tasks that are delegated to perform. So, and finally, if you focus on the technologies and the processes around master data governance, you're certain to get measurable performance opportunities in the execution of work, the planning of your programs, and ultimately the performance of the equipment that you're maintaining. What I'd like to show you now is a solution architecture of the SAP PM product line and how MDG fits into that. The concept of building and modeling your data, or what's commonly talked about in our industry as taxonomy, is what is the data structures that are within the systems we're using, and how are they configured, and how are they derived. A lot of us walk into maintenance jobs or into programs and new environments or companies where these systems are quite established, and we don't really have the root or the origin of where all this data came from or what the information is within the system we have. So we're often tasked with fixing that. So through the solution architecture lifecycle, data is extracted from expert systems, GIS, maintenance reliability, spreadsheets and things like that, and we tend to want to extract those and clean that and then validate that through the course of whether that's greenfield opportunities where we're converting or commissioning new systems, or through the day-to-day upkeep of existing systems. The IT and business side are jointly responsible for loading and reconciling this data. Once the data goes into the systems, of course, we're tasked with cleaning that data and making it right. And the most important piece for me and others that have survived enterprise solution implementations is the sustainment. If we spend a lot of time and resources and in refining the data and making it right, then we really need and should dedicate an equivalent amount of emotion and hard work in sustaining that data. And in the SAP product lines, there are many tools, information steward, power designer, and data services and the like, that our solution architects and our IT departments are providing us to give us the types of systems we're looking for on a day-to-day basis. And the cycle of building and deploying data is a continuous and intuitive process as we commission, build new buildings, build new infrastructure, or commission new pieces of rolling stock and equipment. We're inundated with changes in our data, and it's a challenge that has repercussions on the shop floor as well. So sustainment is a really big piece of not just getting it right the first time, but keeping it right. And that's where we're going to talk a little bit about MDG, Master Data Governance for EAM. The Master Data Governance for Enterprise Asset Management is an extension developed by Utopia for the Enterprise Asset Management portion of the SAP business. It's built upon the existing and ongoing development of SAP Master Data Governance modules, and really is very specific to the equipment's functional locations and bill of materials side of our business, which we all know is a key piece. The other module that we use most extensively in our business is also the materials module. And in combination with EAM, the MDG for material and MDG for EAM are very powerful tools for us moving forward. As SAP Rail users, these are some comments and discussions and terminologies that we're hearing in our business on a daily basis. In depending on whether you're a Class 1 freight rail or a mass transit organization or a public transit service provider, the challenges and the priorities change, but we're all cognitive and constantly reviewing the cost of fuel and labor in our organizations, and certainly measuring fuel efficiency, making sure the equipment structures in our systems are accurate, ensuring that the functional location equipment structures are at a finite level to allow us to do maintenance reliability and predictive and condition-based maintenance. Developing a strong sense of equipment classes and alignment to our financial instruments within our system, so that we can not merely track the expense and service costs in performing our work on a daily basis, but also to take that information and use it to do a asset lifecycle costing, a long-term measurement of our costs year to date, and then also use that forecast forward so that we can do asset investment planning, develop business cases for investment in infrastructure or new equipment, and coming up with evidence-based fact that our maintenance programs are working and that the equipment we need should and can be replaced. The digital railway and positive train control are two, in the rail side of our business, are real key pieces around the digitalization of information. And master data governance is a key piece to making sure that the digital assets that you're acquiring from train-based equipment, geospatial equipment, linear referencing engineering systems, all this variety of information that comes to us is properly managed coming into our SAP systems, and again sustained over the life cycle of our systems. These are some common use cases and focuses that we have in the rail business around where master data and our systems give us most bang for our buck. We're really focused on ensuring that the fuel efficiency, as I just spoke about, the equipment life cycle, how we can better maintain and service our equipments to extend their natural life cycle. In the performance of maintenance and repair tasks, we want to be able to give our technicians and contractors in the field proper instruction and work with them closely to achieve condition and risk-based maintenance, reliability-centered maintenance. And through the course of commissioning and working with new infrastructure and equipment, we want to be able to administrate warranty, conduct solid rebuild programs, and also deal with the incidents of recall or anything around parts or manufacturer recall, mostly in the automotive fleet side of the businesses, but rebuild and warranty is a big piece of heavy equipment as well. Then, of course, the development of task lists and maintenance plans and maintenance tasks to a standard, and establishing that standard and again, sustaining that through the asset information life cycle. Yeah, these are, again, very common rail use cases, all that have elements of dependency upon crisp and accurate master data, whether it's replacement parts or in the case of maintaining equipment, making sure that serialized numbers are maintained and tracked, and getting the first serial numbers in the system during the commissioning and throughout the repair cycles, making sure we're providing our technicians, our maintainers, with the right parts, the right specification of lubrications and such, making sure that we're, when we do execute work and we're working with failure of certain components, that we're tracking that so that we can do more predictive-based maintenance. Again, these are all everyday use cases that are all predicated upon the assumption that our master data is in pretty good shape. Excuse me. As that data comes into our SAP systems and the master data governance systems processes begin to work, we evolve this digitized information through iterations of data states, if you may. The as-designed and as-built specifications, our engineering groups send out detailed specs to manufacturers and contractors to build and construct equipment to our specifications, giving us a baseline of what is this equipment and how it is to be designed, and then ultimately how it is built. Through the maintenance life cycle, we tend to get exposed to data states that are more around the as-found state, especially in the interchange business of freight cars and the like. We don't own every piece of equipment we maintain, and so it's really important to document and make sure that we're capturing the as-found and as-repaired states so that we can execute things like interchange billing. And the AAR standards, as we all know, apply to that, and making sure that the billing system data is congruent and accurate enough in our SAP systems. I know working with the rail user groups, that's not quite the case right now. We're not getting, the billing systems are working and working well, but the data structures and the identification of data and costs are in one system, and our equipment and functional location structures in our SAP systems could be something quite different. And then ultimately, when we're talking positive train control or track infrastructure, we need to know what the operating state is of this equipment. So in terms of rail infrastructure and signaling, we want to make sure that the track and the roadbed and the signaling infrastructure is in a certain state, or understand very specifically what state, so that we can govern the speeds and the capacities of the trains that we're operating through those areas. And then also on the locomotive side, weight to power ratios, specifications and capabilities of the traction plants that we have in our trains. It's really important to rail planners and maintainers to understand what the specifications and capabilities of their equipment are. Which leads us to the discussion around data governance. How do we acquire that data? How do we change that data if there's a speed restriction on a segment of track? How do we move that knowledge, that information from the engineering groups through our dispatchers and our rail operations groups into the systems that they're using on a daily basis? And when we do commission or build infrastructure out, how do we deal with the bulk loading? How do we deal with the spreadsheet-based information and data that's coming to us from contractors, in every direction on a daily basis? And then how do we take all this data and put it into systems that are usable? There's a large focus in the SAP business today around usability, and it's called UX, the user experience. And SAP has done a great job in coming out with tools like Fiori and Personas that allow us to present that data in a much more user-friendly way, which encourages our workers to complete their work orders transactions in near real time, so we can get value out of them right away. Just to share with you, this locomotive you see in the presentation today, when I was 19 years old as a rail mechanic apprentice, my first task was to paint the white tires on this locomotive. This is CN's 6060, one of the last steam locomotives in the fleet. And I'm very proud to say that I didn't have a work order on that day. I just was told to go paint the wheels, and I did. In terms of business drivers, what's important to us, and why is this master data focus such an important thing to us? And I'll begin, as we talked a little bit, around capital investment, making sure that the data within SAP is accurate, it's readily available to us, so that we can not make assumptions, but actually deal with evidence and fact around making business case for investment, or in the case that we have a budgeted investment, if there's some deviations and changes to the, or an incident that might need for us to replace a section of rail or certain class of equipment prematurely, then we understand what the financial implications are immediately, so we can adjust our plans. And secondly, once we do make that adjustment, what's the impact on our long-term or medium-term investment strategy? Doing that kind of stuff in a spreadsheet takes too long, and it's not based on fact. It's based on the assumption that someone with that spreadsheet isn't on vacation today. Secondly, our rail program and repairs. Having perfect master data is really critical to executing maintenance and repair programs, so that you're not sending guys out into the field or working on a fleet of cars or locomotives with information or task lists and materials that just aren't exactly perfect. We know that aside from energy and fuel expenses in our business, that the labor expense in our business it's extreme, and we really need to make sure that we're effective and efficient with the way we treat our workers and delegate them and delegate tasks to them and support them through the important mission that they have to keep our trains and public transportation infrastructure in pristine and perfect shape. Equipment commissioning. The root of all evil in master data begins largely in the commissioning of equipment. When we're getting new or refurbished equipment from our either our own shops or through external vendors, getting that baseline information, what are the serial numbers on traction motors, what are the bill of materials and parts lists required to maintain this new configuration of equipment. Getting that data in the system early in the life cycle is really critical. So the master data governance solutions and processes are really a must-have in respect to once you maintain and get your data to where you want it, you want to be able to sustain that through iterations of change moving forward. Needless to say, regulatory compliance, making sure that your systems are accurate, kept up to date, is not just a good idea, it's a regulatory requirement. If you're to be audited or in the course of inspections and validating information to the agencies and governments abroad, having a solid data governance process in place will ensure that you're 100% compliant with regs, and most certainly not backtracking in the event that there's an incident or an opportunity to report to the government aspects of your rail operations or your infrastructure maintenance. And certainly last but not least, operational excellence and safety, ensuring that our maintenance plans and our programs are supported by really solid data infrastructure is important. And again, we've talked about why, what are the efficiencies and opportunities. Safety is nothing that we can compromise. And as we've all been involved in incidents or investigations or having to report on certain things, and having proper data that's accurate and timely and the ability to retrieve it quickly, develop sound and solid analytics around these things is really important to the operation of our business. I'm going to, being from Canada, I want to reflect on something, a real current day challenge. With the advent of oil pipeline and the ongoing discussion of pipeline versus rail car transportation of dangerous commodities and oil and crude and the like, we've seen rail industry standards go up, become more stringent, to the end of providing rail operators and manufacturers with the ability to not just be compliant, but ensure that the equipment that they're running on our lines on a daily basis are kept to the highest standard. So we've seen through the tightening of regulations and changing in specifications of certain types of equipment and steel strengths and construction configuration of rail cars. It's a classic example of maintainers and maintenance planners and engineers within our business needing to really focus on the management of change around their data. So if the wall thickness of a certain class of car changes and you want to change that data specification in your SAP data structures, that could be a lot of work. So what I'm going to show you today is Master Data Governance EAM provides a framework and process and structure around how and why and when you want to change that data. And then in a few minutes we'll get to a demo, and in doing that I'll be able to show you how exactly we're going to maintain some of that. This is I'll just skip through the slide. One of the most profound technologies in the world coming from the rail business, I find the rail wheel interface absolutely brilliant. And if we can move a train with minimal energy along a piece of steel so efficiently, and why is it that we can't get our data in the system correctly? It's been a lifelong frustration for me. So the good news is I think today I can present to you possibly an answer to that age-long question. How do I get my data right in my system? Okay. Jody, if there's any questions, I can take a couple now before I jump into a demo.
The first question is, can we master data to and from other systems? Okay, yeah, that's a good question, and thank you for asking. Yes, the Master Data Governance toolset within the SAP MDG, the system I'm going to show you today is SAP MDG, and it does sit on top of your ECC instance, and so there's a number of different configurations that we can do. You can have SAP MDG as a hub that sits on top of ECC, where it's tightly integrated, and changes and approvals for the solution through MDG go straight into ECC.
or you can use it in a hub, a disconnected model where it sits adjacent to ECC and a variety of systems, whether it's maintenance reliability, your front-end engineering, intergraphs, and CAD systems of the world, and geospatial systems of the world. It allows you to take data through those different systems, master them to a specific taxonomy, and then manage that data into SAP or back into the master system. So the demonstration I'm going to show you today is the assumption that we're actually working on top of ECC, and in a few different scenarios we can create equipments. What I'd like to show you first is the user interface for MDG. MDG is, again, an SAP product. It's installed either adjacent to or on top of your ECC, and it leverages all the SAP user tools. In this case, we've launched MDG to the NetWeaver business client, and it looks a little different than your everyday ECC. I'll just flip back to a typical flock and equipment structure here. So the master data governance sits on top of ECC, and it acts upon functional locations, bombs, and flocks. And in this demo instance, I've got both equipment structures for a locomotive fleet, and I also have equipment structures for some track elements. And those of us that are working either in rail engineering or mechanical, it's really important for us to get our equipment structures down to a finite level, so that we've got parts and bill of materials all the way down into our different components and systems within our equipment structures. So MDG deals with functional locations, flocks, and bombs out of the box right now, and you're able to master a full locomotive in one easy upload and sustain the components within that flock and equipment structure. And again, it depends on whether your number of railways are more attuned to flock and equipment, or more possibly flock and then cascading equipment structures. It really depends, but we're here today to look at some of the features of MDG and how it'll help us achieve those equipment structures that we just saw in ECC. So the SAP MDG product line transcends pretty much every object in the SAP bill of material. So the MDG for EAM works on top of master data for equipment master, functional locations, bill of materials. There's MDG for material, which works on the item and material masters. We have generic EAM functions coming out in the new year, and that'll deal with maintenance plans, task lists, maintenance items, meters, a whole list of all the different components that you'll need for EAM. So, but today I'd like to review with you the MDG. So technical objects, we can master that, measurement points, documentation. One thing that in a future demo we're going to be talking about how the master data governance process can also work with our content management. We're in partnership with OpenText and have the ability to not just manage asset and equipment master data, but also build a bridge between the document structures that we use every day for drawings, PIDs, tags, and digital information within our SAP system. One of the, as we move into the equipment master for MDG, or MDG for equipment master, the ability to search for equipment is really powerful. So we all have done that in ECC, and some days, you know, it can be quite a task. So let me just here's a list of our equipments. It's got a nice clean user interface, really strong search capabilities, so we can put in phrases, terms, try and find data, where the description might contain the word loco or some iteration of loco. So here we have 5 locomotives here. We can actually click on it and look at the detail of the equipment record. In the event, let's get this up here. So this is the equipment record. You would look in whether it's the IEO 1, 2, or 3 screen. Here we go. So all the data fields are present, and the most common question I get, well, Jim, how do we get our data into MDG? Well, it really the data is in SAP, so MDG is using and leverages all the master data and transactions within ECC. So MDG is SAP. It doesn't have data of its own. It has business rules, configurations, some workflows within it, but the data we're using and seeing on a daily basis is ECC. So I think that's the most common question I get. In the event that the locomotive that we're looking for isn't here, we can actually begin a change request by clicking on the New button. So again, if under the scenario, in a typical use scenario, we have what we call a requester, we have a specialist, and we have an approver. And I have a slide to show us that later. So you want to generate a change request. So this replaces the entire process of typically sending an email to someone with an attachment or printing out something and stapling a sticky note to it and putting it on someone's desk. This really puts a framework around issuing or requesting a change. So if you want to add a new pump, you can do that. You establish a priority. Again, what you're going to see is this is the change request is starting to do its work. It's starting to say, what is it that we want to change? When do we want to change it? What is it a high priority? Is this locomotive? Do I need this information out right now to release a locomotive into service, or is it a capital project that can wait for a couple weeks? And within the change requests, behind the scenes, there's ECC and BRF plus business rules. They're saying, I want to control the way the data is structured, the information that comes into the change request, and as a requester, I'm compelled to put this information into a change request that'll go up through what would you say, a workflow or a business process to manage the transition from a request through an approver or a specialist and then an approver. I'm just going to click out of this because I'm running long on time here, and I want to show you I've got a change request all ready to go. All right, so in the change, when we create the change request, it ends up in a queue, and through the change, if it's a specialist or approver, we come into this queue, click on that, and look at the specification of the request and say, when do I need to do this? Is it a high priority? It's a high priority. It was created on this date. It's required on this date. Within this particular change request, we created a load spreadsheet. In this case, I've got 17 different pieces of rail equipment with all the data that I want to add. These are templates that the user can either download through the system itself or create or be provided a template to do that. Within the change request, this one we have 17 pieces of equipment. While we're in the change request itself, the requester says I need 17 pieces of equipment. I have the opportunity now to actually go into what we call single processing, is where we act upon one piece of equipment. And it'll open up a change request for that particular piece of equipment. Sorry about the speed. So we're going to see a single change request for that very specific piece of equipment. And while I'm in the single process object processing, I can deal with the specifics of that single record as soon as it loads. Sorry for the delay there. I'll just jump out of it. The next feature we have is, and it can perform the same task, is what we call mass change. We can select a number of these pieces of equipment within the change request and act upon, add or change some of the data across all of them. This would be really useful if you're executing a change request across a certain class of equipment, so that you could query and retrieve a whole series of either equipments or materials across a range, and then execute a change in a mass change. So in this case, if we wanted to change the ABC material indicator on all 17 of those items, we can do this here. We could change the work center in mass, all the data elements that are available to us in the equipment structure, we could do in a mass change. So I'll just go next, and you can see that the ABC attribute was changed to A and applied to all those pieces of equipment. So from a data management perspective, it gives the maintenance planners playing a specialist role the ability to, again, not just execute single changes, but execute mass changes, and then promote those changes into ECC. I'll do that real quickly. So we've got a change request with 17 pieces of equipment here. I think I've got the change request open somewhere else, but anyway. So I apologize, I'm not too sure why it's doing that, but anyway, it looks like it thinks I'm using the change request somewhere else. But anyway, going through the change, let me just jump to the slide. It'd be better to do it here. Let me just jump to the change process. So what we would see if my system wasn't locked up is a change request going from a structured and unstructured data going to a requester. The requester creates a change request that we saw, and it would go through a data coordinator or possibly a planner. That information might be validated by maintenance engineering people looking for reliability specifications or certain data, engineering data. It would possibly pass through the accounting group that might associate and give us accurate work and cost center information. And then that change request might flow through to the maintenance planner, who has the opportunity to either reject or rework it, and then upon approval, it would get pushed up into ECC. Okay, for the sake of time, I'll just do a quick review. We've got equipment in Master Data Governance. Let me just, I'll pop up and go into the Solution Architecture. This is the MDG for Rail Equipment Solution Architecture. We have the Enterprise Information Management Solutions for SAP. Within the Asset Information Governance Platform, we have HANA, the ERP or ECC, and then within the Master Data Governance, we have workflows, a staging area, validation capability, and we can do that across all the different objects, customers, vendor, material, and now with the advent of MDG for EAM, we can now do that for EAM products within SAP. In terms of the product line itself, we're currently, as I was showing you, equipment and functional location and material bombs, our MRO bombs, are available in our current product line. In our releases coming into the new year, we'll see the introduction of linear asset referencing, work centers, task lists, maintenance plans. All the different EAM product lines are coming out through 2016, all the way out into measurement points, production resources, and the like. We also have the ability to write custom objects. There's an MDG custom object license, so if there are other master data needs, something that's growing popular with us is source lists and purchasing information requests, which are not on the current roadmap, but might be in the future. We can achieve those today with custom objects. And as we wind down, what I'd like to do is talk about how do we actually get there? How do I get into a master data governance process? There's a global standard called ISO 5500, which is pretty much the first asset management specific ISO standard, and while it's pretty finite in respect to its purpose is to define what asset management is. Within it, there's a number of subsections around the need for data taxonomies. It doesn't really define your data taxonomy. So it's important for transportation organizations to, number one, focus on the objections and expectations of what they expect these data models to do. So if you're a maintenance or mechanical shop, or whether you're a track engineering group or a road infrastructure organization, you should really have a focus and a good idea of what are the types of data, the sources of your data, and why, why and how you want to standardize those in your ECC system. Secondly, you want to put together a plan for using workflow and governance models. You can look at a current use case or a current business model with existing staff and develop a workflow and business rules that really work the way you and your organizations work. Or you can build it to a future state, assuming that you're going to either centralize possibly the data governance where all the shops and business units sort of roll all their data into one sort of governance body, or you can create those governance rules and workflows for local application. It really doesn't matter. As long as you define them and execute them, that'll be the secret there. Apply a quality process in the ISO 5500 method. They use a quality process called plan, do, check, and act. So if you're planning your data, you're executing change, you're putting checks and balances and reviews on what good and bad data is, and then you react to that in terms of continuous improvement. These are the foundations for a good master data governance process, and around that process you build roles and involve people, and lastly, certainly not least, the technology, which in this case would be SAP MDG for EAM. Here's a typical plan, do, check, act process that is out of the box. SAP MDG Master Data Governance for Enterprise Asset Management comes with the capability to execute this type of process out of the box with some pretty generic workflows. Again, SAP MDG for Enterprise Rail might require you, or you may see a need for developing MDG governance for EAM objects, materials, warranty, claim, all the different objects. If any of you would like a more detailed demonstration, I've got a number of use cases, scenarios centered around locomotives and cars, and also linear referencing for track infrastructure that I'd be happy to demonstrate to you. And these are just a few screens in terms of different organizations have their flock and equipment structures structured in different manners. Some of them are flock heavy and some are equipment heavy. It really just doesn't matter. We have a master data governance tool set to allow you to develop really accurate, strong, and repeatable flock and equipment structures all the way down into your bill of materials, your maintenance items, and parts lists and examples. So these are some of the screens that I would have been able to show you if my system wasn't so slow, but I apologize for that. Single and processing and mass changes really solid feature that allows for a central planner or data steward to act upon large bodies of data very quickly and make those changes, knowing that the data stewards or custodians within your business have access and very quick visibility to the data structures you're trying to master. And again, at the end of it, it's all about getting the right equipment records and functional location records in your ECC quickly, easily, and accurately. Closing it out, early in my presentation we talked about usability. MDG is also available to be used through the SAP Fiori user interfaces. It looks like Windows front end. Same functionality, all the same features, just has a nice Windows-looking UI. If that's a number of railways we're working with today are moving towards Fiori in the coming year. To close off, before I take any questions, Utopia is privileged to be involved with the SIGs and rail SUGs within our business globally. We're working with the SAP IBU for rail, headed up by Mr. Kevin Chalk and his great global team. This coming week, we're going to be in Kansas City as a co-sponsor of the Rail SUG in Kansas City, hosted by our good friends at Kansas City Southern. So you can look online at the Rail SUG, and if you have the opportunity to come out to the Rail SUG event next week in Kansas City, we'll be going to the Kansas City Royals game on Thursday night. In terms of social media, there's a number of SAP MDG groups. Utopia sponsors and manages the SAP MDG for EAM blog, so if you're interested in joining that or moving in there and seeing what your peers and friends are doing in Master Data Governance, that's a great place to begin. And so Jody, that's it. I apologize for my system being a little slow and causing those screens to lock up, but if there's any questions, I'd be happy to take a few.
Sure, we've had a few questions come in. One of the other questions is, what are the components of a solid MDG for EAM business case cost justification?
Well, that is the golden nugget, isn't it? And thank you for that question. Very good question. The business value, and we're working closely with the SAP EAM or the SAP Value Engineering team today with a number of our customers. And what we're seeing is the business case and business value for implementing MDG is, again, and I talked about the low-hanging fruit earlier in the discussion, is around cost avoidance or lack of productivity when you're executing field-based programs and you're sending guys out to do track inspections, and you get there and the switch structure or signal structure that the work order says there's 3 or 4 components to, it actually has 6, or the geospatial coordinates weren't correct, and you end up scheduling crew to go out to the middle of nowhere. That happens. So in terms of workforce efficiency, productivity, and cost avoidance around sending guys out in the middle of nowhere with either the right parts for the wrong job or the wrong parts for the right job, there's the business case right there. We're also working on the simplification of capital projects or equipment commissioning. If we can accelerate and change the way data is acquired and moved from an engineering state in capital projects into pristine master data within ECC, it allows planners to be doing their job. They're not there all day to chase down bombs and documents and P&IDs and different things to put into the system. They're there to support the maintenance groups at large. And the more time they spend on the floor, the better our equipment and our maintenance programs will be.
Okay, the next question I have is, can I use MDG for EAM with Fiori or Persona usability tools?
Absolutely. One of our rail customers is very dedicated to Fiori, not only because it provides a slick UI, but also it takes the sting or the challenge out of deploying the same application with the same workflow across different devices. With the advent of tablets and smartphones and the like, you know, a lot of our customers are looking at trying to equip people with not just laptops but tablets out in the field. So the Fiori UI transcends across those different technologies and really is device independent.
The next question that I have is, do we need to set up business rules in MDG and ECC?
Very good question. Yeah, the workflow and business rules that you see in managing data governance begin with the foundation rules within ECC. So whatever processes and current business rules you have in a more manual use of ECC are still present. So when you implement MDG, it comes with a number of products, one being the BRF Business Rules Framework Plus, and that allows you to supplement and augment. So you take the baseline ECC workflows and you build out and extend additional workflows to achieve the data governance and processes that you want. Again, MDG is an SAP product, so it leverages the securities and profiles and permissions that are already configured within ECC to manage who, where, what, and when in terms of data management. Your MDG governance model is achieved. So there's no magic there. There's ECC and then there's the BRF business rules, and the combination of both can give you a really solid master data governance methodology.
The last question that I currently have is, other third-party tools seem to be able to do MDG, so why SAP MDG for EAM?
Well, that's a common question, and we are encountering it all the time. There are a number of product companies out there that have built different types of tools and different methodologies to do data cleansing, data acquisition, what we call ETL tools. And they all claim, and everyone claims to say, well, I can format this and format that. The reality is SAP MDG is an SAP product. And again, when you buy a third-party product, they expect you to do data loading into their tool and then business rule configurations within their tools. It's quite easy. When you buy and implement MDG, you're using SAP business rules that exist. You're configuring your workflows and business rules once within SAP, so you don't get the duplication and redundancy associated to common bolt-on products. Being an automotive guy, I'd like to buy all my Mopar parts for my Chrysler and bolt them on, knowing that they're designed specifically for my car and are exactly what I need to increase the horsepower performance of my automobile. So I would say the same thing applies to SAP Master Data Governance solutions for SAP. They're built for SAP. They're supported and sustained by SAP from a support perspective. From a long-term solution life cycle, we're working closely with SAP to deploy and the solution roadmap, so that every quarter or every half year we're sending out updates to improvements on certain modules, releases of new modules. So the MDG solution roadmap is actually controlled by SAP and executed by SAP. So in terms of third-party products, they're all very good. They all do certain things, but my money's on keeping it in SAP.